Okay, well, welcome to an exploration of how leaders can drive change in a volatile economy. Wonderful you showed up. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce today's panel to you. But first, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 8 territory, the original land of the Cree and Dene, and the unceded territory of the Métis people. My name is Eric Potter. I'm with Sage and Summit Consulting. And we have a really interesting topic today talking about people-centered leadership and how that impacts not just businesses, but the communities around us. And I think the faces on the panel are familiar to most of you. They're very well-established business leaders and as well extremely committed to the community, each one of them playing a large part in the local community and doing their part and sharing their leadership skills with the community. So I'd like to introduce to you first Dr. Sandra Efu. She is the interim president and CEO of Keyano College. And Nayef Maghoub is the managing director of Akron Engineering, And to my left is Crystal Young. She's the president and CEO of McKay Métis Group. And on my immediate left, Mohamed Tarrabin is the executive director of Tarrabin Consulting. And our moderator today is Marderé Birkill, CEO of Sage and Summit Consulting.
Thank you very much, Eric.
I'm not sure where we're starting.
Ladies first?
No, ladies.
We're going to play hot potato with the mics, I believe. Great. So we're just going to jump right in. I'm going to ask each panelist to tell us a little bit about your leadership journey, your relationship with leadership. Sort of why did you choose to be a leader? What is your leadership purpose? And why are you passionate about people-centered leadership? Starting with, you look ready. Thanks, Crystal.
I'm not really sure if I chose the leadership role or the leadership role kind of chose me. I started with McKay Métis Group about 8 years ago in a different position. And I think this is where it really comes down to true value of having people who believe in you and support and empower. There was a position that became available as CEO, and I had a supportive team in place that believed in me, I guess, when I kind of really didn't believe in myself. And I had a board of directors who also encouraged me for that position. And to be honest, I was doing the job, but I didn't really believe in myself and was kind of a bit scared to take on the actual role. So 4 years later, I'm in this role. I'm kind of, I guess, as a child, it was considered probably a bossy, but now it's called leadership as an adult. So again, I believe in believing in my team and people because I need them. I'm one person, and if I could do the whole job myself, they wouldn't need the rest of the team. But these guys make me look good, and they bring different perspectives to the table that I don't even think of some days. And I think that's where I really find that we support each other, collaborate, listen to each other, and it's the whole dynamic with my team is collaboration and like I said, I need them.
Would you like to go ahead, Sandra?
You realize that at some point you're going to get the mic.
It should be a little button to push.
Oh, it's on. It's on. All right, thank you. Before I jump in, I would say as a female leader, I have a lot of respect for Crystal and the work that you do in the community. We do need more diversity and representation when it comes to leadership. So I just wanted to start by saying that and acknowledging all the work that you do. So as a person, I have a personal mission statement that drives me every day. And really, it's to give the world the best of me by embracing challenges and pushing through boundaries. That's my why. That's why I wake up every day. That's why I show up. And so my experiences have been primarily within the post-secondary system in Halifax and then Fort McMurray. And with each of the experiences, whether it's serving as faculty or facilitating global mobility opportunities for staff and students, dean, vice president, and now interim president and CEO, there's an overarching belief for me that all of us are leaders in our own way. And we ultimately have a responsibility to make the organizations we work within, the communities we live in, the province, the country, the world, a better place. To leave these spaces better, not just for ourselves or those that we work with, but the children and our children's children that are coming behind us. So for me, that's what motivates me. That's what drives me. And why leadership? Why not, right? Ultimately, it's a humbling experience that learning never ends. You continue to learn, you continue to push boundaries as the opportunities arise and present themselves, and ultimately for a better society. So, yeah, that's me.
You want to stay to be the last step? So first I would like to thank Marderé and Eric for coordinating this event. Really appreciate it. I'd like to thank the people who showed up, took some time of their busy working days. So there isn't much to say after what Crystal and Sandra said. It's hard to come up with any additions. However, I'm with the opinion that most of us sometimes don't choose to be leaders. So like the older of your siblings, or like a father or a mother, or when you are engaged in any group activities, sometimes you find yourself selected as a leader and you need to jump in and take action. So I'm one of those people who was not really keen on becoming a leader. It just happened during the process. The reason why I accepted to be a leader is the fact that I would love to, as Sandra said, I'd love to make a good impact on the environment. When I say environment, it doesn't stop at the workplace. It extends to the community at large, the environment, the town or the country we live in. I'm also one of those who love challenges, like you, Sandra. I would like to make an impact, not only on my coworkers, but on the community at large as well. I'd like to see people growing and reaching their optimum, so I would like to be part of that as well. Now you have to go, Mohamed.
Yeah, I guess. Thank you, Nayef, Crystal, and Sandra. So I'd like first to acknowledge everyone attended today. There's definitely much better leaders sitting and looking at me right now, but I'm really thrilled and honored to be among you. As Nayef mentioned, you don't choose to be a leader. If you choose to be a leader, you will be bossy. That's not the right way. I do believe, I'm a firm believer that each one of us, doesn't matter what kind of background you are, it doesn't matter what kind of job you have, you are a carekeeper, I call you. And you have someone that you look after. So usually in life, we're grown in a different perspectives, but I'm a firm believer that I will do good, not for myself, for you. And this is on all levels. When I first came to Canada, I only had $200. I settled in Laklavish, made my way to Fort McMurray, ended up in Fort Chip. I was lucky enough myself to live among some of the greatest indigenous nations that they teach us lots of leadership skills that cannot be taught by books, cannot be taught by courses. It only can be taught from the land and from the elders. And number one rule is to be humble. Number one rule is to be genuine and to be honest. And don't expect anything. If you do good, do the good for your own self. And I only have one slogan that I always live day by one. People are gonna forget what I was wearing today. They're gonna forget what we might have talked about. But people will never forget how you make them feel. So be kind. So that's why I think I'm known to be a leader. I don't feel I'm a leader. I don't believe I'm a leader yet. There's still a long way. And I don't think a leadership status can be granted for someone who's still alive, because he can ruin it anytime. I do believe a leader, call me a leader when I die. Leave a legacy behind. I'm done.
Thank you very much for those beautiful introductions. And I'm honored to be sitting amongst such amazing leaders. But now we're going to ask them some questions. They did have time to prepare, but I'm hoping that they will wing it a little bit just to make it a bit more interesting. So, first question goes to Nayef. It's a bit of a lengthy one, so bear with me. I always like to go back to a quick journey back to ancient worlds of leadership. There was so much wisdom back then. So more than 2 millennia ago, Homer wrote the Odyssey, which emphasizes that greedy, unrestrained, irresponsible leaders make communal life intolerable for everyone. The moral of his story, in the short version, is that the quality of human life in a community depends on the quality of its leaders. Nayef, is that still true for us?
Thank you for giving these hard questions, Marderé. So yes, it is 100% true. I totally agree. So one of the learnings from the Odyssey is the fact that he sacrificed his life for his crew. He, during the hard time, he listened to the feedback, acquired the feedback from his fellow fighters. He decided which feedback he should consider, and he did apply some of the feedback that he heard. So at the same time, he also lived in a very hard conditions during the war time, and he adopted himself and led by example his team, and he had strong connection to his family as well. So yes, it's a true thing that still applies 100% to our today's leadership.
Thank you for that. Our leaders impact our communal life, and quality of our leaders is very important for us to have healthy communities. That's cool. Thank you. In the same vein, we're going to jump over to Sandra. What's your favorite ancient wisdom about leadership, and how does that apply to leadership today?
Thank you. For me, I think I'm going to go with the Stoics. So the Stoic school came about in roughly 301 BC in Athens. And so for me, there are three elements that really resonate with me. One is the focus on the bigger picture. Ultimately, there are lots of noise and activities and incidents that happen in life. But as a leader, how are you able to filter through the noise and focus on the bigger picture? You know, you remember Abraham Lincoln and, you know, the common phrase from him that this too shall pass. So as a leader, as you encounter experiences, how does it fit within the bigger picture? So for me, that's the first thing. The second is the focus on our sphere of control. Ultimately, there are things we can control and things we cannot control. COVID-19, yes, right? But as leaders, I think really we focus on the things that we do have control over. Focusing on the things that we don't have control over could sometimes just be an exercise in frustration. And so that's the second. The third for me is the focus on the inner goal of virtue. In today's society, there is a lot of focus on outward appearance, wealth, but do we take enough time to pause, to reflect, and to really recenter ourselves to the things that truly matter? The virtues of honesty, right? Of service, and so on. So that inward look, that reflective practice is so critical as a leader. So for me, I think those would be the three pieces of the Stoics that really resonates for me, and I think continues to apply in today's society.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I love the idea of virtuous leadership and practicing all those virtues as a leader. And it's an inside job, right? It's an inside job. Excellent. From here, we're jumping to Mohamed. Machiavelli contributed to leadership in an interesting turn with his book, The Prince. The Prince was written in the Middle Ages as an instruction manual to a prince on how to lead. And there were some interesting truths in there, some harsh wisdoms that we seem to have adopted, and we still do. How does it influence modern thinking today?
What was his name? Oh, I'm joking. So who read The Prince here for Machiavelli?
I didn't.
One. Okay.
Yeah, you have to say.
So it's a book was written in around 1682, I'm assuming. It does lay out the way you should lead. With a modern society or the modern era, it was definitely contradicted, and there was lots of critics and studies against that way, command and control, no emotions, no empathy, no compassion, just be harsh, lead, and they will follow. And I don't think that was fair to Machiavelli, right? His book, definitely, if you want to read his book, and I do recommend all of you, read it. Put your emotions on the side. And just open that book, read it, and learn how to lead. If not others, lead yourself. Here's the key of that book. Not to lead the others. It's to lead yourself. Because if you're not going to be harsh on yourself, if you're not going to be tough on yourself to overcome the obstacles and the hardships in life, don't expect anyone else to tap you on the shoulder. So this is exactly what the whole book is all about. Yes, it's been used back in the days as a nationwide principle. I guess it's like the Canadian law right now. But I do believe, yes, he was right on some of the stuff for sure, right? Yes, you need to have that grasp of power, right? You need to be a bit firm, not to dictate, to lead. It's like I have kids, for example. My youngest, Ali, he's so hyper. He's not ADHD. I don't believe in that. But he's so hyper, he's so active, if I'm not that harsh on him sometimes, he cannot be guided, right? That doesn't mean I don't like the kid. No. I'm looking for the future. So yes, definitely it's a good book for everybody. It's called The Prince. And I do recommend you to read it. And as I said, if you only take from that book how to lead yourself, I think you served your purpose in life.
Thank you very much. So yes, it's a very controversial writing with some interesting aspects in there, but there are some virtuous truths in there about leading yourself. Thank you for that.
Can I comment on something? So I did not read the book. However, I did my research, And one of the comments was that he believed that it's better to be feared than loved. I can guarantee you with my team, I'm scared of them more than they're scared of me.
Thank you for that. Which brings us to Crystal. Since the turn of the previous century, studies and theories of the best leadership practices took off. What did we learn over the past 120 years about leadership that is still regarded a leading practice for us today?
Again, I had to research some of these ancient perspectives. I think this one really plays into my role and my team's role and our company's role. Being owned by a nation, our whole existence is to support the nation. And this is where a servant relationship, leadership style comes into play, is that not only are we working for our own families and making sure that, you know, we're taking care of ourselves and our own families, we have the ability to be able to help take care of others. Like, we have a larger purpose. And, you know, we wouldn't even have jobs with the company we have right now if the company didn't exist. Like, our sole purpose as Fort McMurray Métis Group is that we generate revenue for the nation to be able to use towards programs and housing and you name it, to just basically contribute to the better lives for the Métis members. So I think the idea of having, you know, I hear my team and other people say that they have another purpose besides, you know, working for themselves, and they're contributing to something further. And also the ability to be able to, you know, when you feel good about doing something, it's almost like you're more passionate about it. You want to come to work. It's not just a job. Some days it's just a job. But other days it's like, wow, look what we're doing, and look at the change that's in Fort McKay Métis over the last 4 to 5 years, last 15 years, how we've grown, how we've evolved. And that's just not me. That's my team, and that's hard work and people coming together in collaboration. It's multiple stakeholders. It's not just the employees. It's our partners. It's the nation. It's industry partners all coming together and collaborating for success and mutual success. So I think that's really important to make sure that that style, as in, like, how can I help make you better? How can I help make us better? How can I help you as a leader advance in your role? Like people encouraging me, how can I help you? What do you need? I struggled a little bit in the beginning of my placement as a CEO because I was used to always just doing everything myself. And I realized really hard, really fast, if I didn't change my ways, that I was going to fail. And I had to put trust in my team, and they had to put trust in me. But I did have to make some hard choices. But I did it for the betterment of everybody around us working together. And it did work out. And now I have a fantastic team, and we're just striving.
What was that?
He said, are we hiring? Yes, we are.
Thank you very much for that beautiful answer. I just love the idea of leadership being almost like a ripple effect into the communities where they work, because it's not only about the leader and their immediate team, but it's like a Midas touch. It touches everywhere, right throughout. So I'm going to go back to this side here. Sandra and Nayef, who's going to answer first? Who wants the mic first? Hot potato mic. Command and control has been a very popular leadership model and is still a very prevalent leadership style, probably because it's efficient. But in today's fast-paced world, what are your thoughts on the pros and cons of this leadership style? And how does it affect the teams around them?
Yeah, command and control as a leadership style, it's a very traditional style of leadership, one of the oldest that there is. And there is space for command and control type of leadership. Ultimately, what that entails is a person or a group of individuals make decisions and filter it down to frontline workers. Not a lot of room for debate, conversations. You have your marching orders, and you go and you implement. Nayef tells me all the time that there's room and space for this kind of leadership style. In my sector, post-secondary, I don't think that I subscribe to that, but I'll let Nayef convince us as to why it's a good leadership style, and then I'll just contradict everything he says.
So since I know that you are going to contradict, I'm going to agree with you. So all what you said is correct, 100%. So in my engineering practice, there is no room for lead and command. We have to brainstorm and think as a team. But there are, of course, very important applications of lead and command in emergencies in general, whether it's fighting a fire or in a military setting. So the only way to lead in these situations is to apply lead and command style. The pros of this kind of leadership is it is quick in response, it's very effective, it's very clear directions with very clear procedure, very easy to apply. It applies to people who has less knowledge, less skills. It's easy to monitor as well because it's very defined. The disadvantages of this is the fact that there is no room for innovation because people just follow orders. They don't think. They're not allowed to think, actually. They just have to follow the orders. So that can make a big gap between the team members and the leaders. So these are the disadvantages of this. So I don't know if you want to contradict to any of what I said.
Well, I agree. I agree with your points. There's room and space certainly for command control type leadership. But I will reference post-secondary. I have my colleagues here around the room from Keyano, and I think of all of the debates and conversations we have around the table. Listen, we have some very good debates. And it leads to creativity, innovation. You get perspective from team members. And then there's that additional buy-in when you get to the implementation phase, because ultimately we own the success or challenges within any organization. So as much as I appreciate command and control, I would probably subscribe to servant leadership as more of a leadership style, or collaborative leadership for that matter, as more of a leadership style that fosters innovation, creativity, minimizes employee turnover. So I would encourage folks, if you want to know more, talk to all the folks from Keyano here, because I think they have lots of lived experiences in ensuring an open, collaborative workspace to ultimately drive innovation.
You good? Are you sure? Anybody on this side? No? Okay, good. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for mentioning a few people-centered leaderships like servant leadership and collaborative leadership, because we're going to jump straight over to talking more about people-centered leadership styles, where command and control is sort of more like a dictatorship, and all the other styles: servant leadership, collaborative leadership, authentic leadership, relational leadership, and a few others. The book is coming out later this year. Mohamed, as a fellow consultant, what obstacles do you find in adopting a people-centered leadership style?
It's a bit harsh sometimes, definitely, to let people adopt to allowing others to be the center of making a decision in their company. There's few reasons for that. when someone has a small scale business or a medium scale business, to them it's like a baby. It's their own baby. And sometimes they don't trust anyone just to come in and take over, right? The way we try to shift that thinking is not to make the CEO or the president or the owner or the manager that you don't know what you're doing kind of thing. We direct them in a way, let me show you a better way. Your way is amazing, but let me show you maybe a more effective way. I believe that to answer that kind of question, I don't think it's an obstacle. I think it's more about shifting it to be balanced system. You need the command and control. You need it. It has to be there, but not on everything. I believe there's principles. Like, for example, in the jewelry business we are in, we have 4 principles. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't backbite. Anything else, do. That's these 4. You lose a ring, you make a mistake, you do that, it's fixable, it's repairable, you know, whatever. But those are the 4 rules that I have to control on them, and I have to command if something happens. You're out, right? Everything else, no. So I do believe, yes, we need to balance it. It should be command and control. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if it wasn't for the people that are working, you are nothing. So I do believe it's not just, oh, I'm like, you know, the phrase family business, for example, right? It's the most biased statement out there, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Is really your employee or your family members or no? Do you know them? Do you know their struggle? If Jan show up one day at my store and she's not happy, do I really take the time and take her on the side? What's wrong? So this is what I feel, you know, for us to reach that centered care system, I call it, right? You really need to build the principle. And after that, you need to build that trust bridge between you and the people who are under you. You want to just say that? You have to they have to trust you. You have to trust them. You have to care about them. They have to care about you. You have to love them. And in return, they're going to serve you. That's what I feel. So it's a balance thing. It's not like a struggle.
It's not this way or that way. It's a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Thank you. Crystal, do you want to?
Again, I think it just goes back to you have to trust that people are going to help you make the right decisions, or at least get to the right decision, and that's the whole part of collaboration. I might think I have a decision made, and I'll go in front of my team, and they'll tell me I'm wrong, and I'm like, well, tell me how I'm wrong, or tell me what the solution is. And I might sometimes still not agree, but I'll definitely take their perspective and understand why they feel a certain way, or why they think they should do something a different way. But guess what? Sometimes they're actually right, and I'm just like, wow, okay, I never thought about it like that. So I think it's important to, in order not to have to do everything yourself, you need to rely. And if you're constantly making decisions without your team, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to speak up to you. They're not going to bring new ideas, fresh ideas forward, and so on, right? It's gonna be really hard to go backwards once you've almost broke that trust, and then they're not going to respect you, and that's even worse than not having trust. But I'm like you. Just tell me you made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. We're human. I don't know all the answers. Tell me you don't know anything. Like, I don't care if you know nothing about what I'm asking you to do. I would respect you more if you told me that than trying to do it by yourself, failing, or even not even completing it. So that's important.
Thank you for that. Does anybody else want to add into this?
So totally agree with what Mohamed and Crystal said. And again, yes, people make mistakes, and a true leader will not point fingers. We just say, yes, we admit first. We have to admit that we made a mistake, and we have to find a solution so that we don't make the same mistake again. That's what really matters. But yes, no one is perfect.
Thank you very much for that. And that is a perfect segue into our next question, which is about people leading people. Post-pandemic social sentiment is highlighting a focus on well-being. And we have a massive surge in mental health challenges right across the globe. 1 in 5 adults is suffering from a significant mental health challenge. How can leaders mitigate the effects of burnout and mental health challenges in their teams? What should we be doing differently?
I want to first start off by saying that I'm not perfect, and I've probably made every mistake that everybody has commented here in leadership. Just to be upfront, it's easy for me to sit here and say, how we should do things, and I try to lead by those values, but I am by far not perfect, and probably have made every mistake that everybody's talking about here. So I just want to throw that out there so my team don't call me out later. I think the biggest thing in this society is bringing awareness. Our team and our HR manager and team have done really well at seeing what's out there, seeing new initiatives to bring awareness, internal and external, in this community, so we can help advocate. One of the biggest things that we were involved with the last few years that's kind of taken off here in Fort McMurray is men's mental health. There was a parade and so on, and we support it now for a few years in a row, but I didn't even know before that it existed. And I think just, breaking the bias, right? Like, people are human, no matter if you're male, female, or how you identify. Sometimes people are too shy to come up and say there's something bothering them. Or maybe, I notice that my team is overcompensating in other areas because maybe other people in the office, or even myself, is not coming up to the plate at that time, because we all have bad days, and I need to be able to be aware and, encourage my leadership to be aware, to make sure, people take vacations and people don't answer their phones, and people are available to support others when they're off. Like, we're a small organization. We don't always have that flexibility, and sometimes we rely on people too much to fill in and close those gaps. But we also got to realize that my good people are going to burn out if I don't pay attention, or if they don't pay attention to the needs of others as well. Don't get me wrong, like, everybody here is so loyal. They're like, yeah, I'll answer my phone, don't worry, I'll do this, I'll do that. No, like, you need a break. And we're at the point now in our organization where there's no reason why we can't take that break. So just being able to recognize and, be a bit flexible. I don't care if someone is, if they need to go to appointments, or they have children and they need to meet their needs. Yes, step out, bring them to work. We have pets in the office. We have kids in the office. At the end of the day, it's the output of what we're doing as an organization, not the amount of hours that you're sitting at your desk. So I think it's really important to recognize that different people need different things, and we create a safe environment and open communication. We're getting bigger to the point where, more employees, so I find sometimes less communication because everybody's so busy and, trying to do so many good things for the company. But sometimes you just need to have, one-on-one conversations, or, how's your personal life? Is it good? Or you're stressed? Or, being able to create that environment where people can come talk to you as a leader. And it goes both ways. Like, I've literally apologized to my team, and I found a few months back, a while ago, I was going through something personal, and I felt like I wasn't stepping up, and I admitted I wasn't stepping up. And I needed them, and they helped me, and I said I was going to get myself back together, and I did, I think, a little bit. But honestly, everybody struggles, right? And just being aware that we're humans, and it's going to happen, and you never know what someone's going through. So communicate, talk to each other, and create an environment where people feel safe.
No, I will agree with you on this. I thank you, Crystal. You nailed this question. But I would like to add one thing about this. Maybe it's on the bigger size companies. It's really hard to mitigate this. But for the small sizes, I do believe that if you're hiring someone, you gotta understand something, that they're staying with you probably more than they're staying with their families. So this is very important. That's why to be in business, in the business world, you actually need lots of courage to go there, because you're not only there for yourself, you're actually there for the people that are actually working for you. So this is a rule I have. I call it the golden rule in hiring, right? And that's why it takes me a while to go through the resumes and hire someone. First and foremost, when I look at someone, I never look at their credentials or their experience or whatever background they got. No, I only look at one thing. What kind of personality and attitude they have. If they're good, if they're community-oriented, if they're humble, if they're genuine. If I'm hiring them, I have to accept them the way they are. That means they're not perfect, right? But that's actually pretty sure you might be aware of the We Care unit in Wood Buffalo. It's actually one of the biggest organizations in Wood Buffalo. We serve over 7,000 members. And we initiated in a small group, Nayef is one of us, in 2016. And now we have within 7,000 members. And the whole idea of this We Care unit, it started as, you're perfect, but if you do this, you're going to be 10 times more better. Let me give you the resource. Let me invest in you. Because again, we go back to the main golden rule, their attitude. They're good. So if you invest in them, you're investing in yourself. So I think it goes hand by hand. When you take that role in hiring someone, you got to understand that you're spending more time than their husband and their wife and the kids and even their parents. So if you're not going to have that ambition and love, what's the point of being in business?
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with Crystal and Mohamed. Wonderful insights. I will say, though, that the workplace, too, has become so much more complex, given the multi-generational folks that we have working. You have, baby boomers, Gen Z. My daughter told me last week that she's Gen Alpha. And to put it in context, she's 10. And I'm like, first of all, that's a thing, Gen Alpha. And yeah, she went on to school me on that. So now imagine her in the workplace a few years from now. It just adds, additional layers of complexity. And when we talk about, your mental health and well-being, it's not an easy piece to grapple with when you have to contend with different generations in the workplace. And our understanding, interpretations, coping mechanisms also differs by generation. And so how do you strike that balance? I know for us at the institution too, one of the things that we try to hold each other accountable on is also as leaders taking care of ourselves. We oftentimes with HR support, we talk about taking care of the team. Well, who's taking care of the leaders as well? How do we provide time and space for that self-care and filling our cup, really? So I'm not giving you any answers. I'm just making things a bit more complex, but it's the truth, I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much for approaching that topic, because what we normally tell our clients is, like, as a leader, you've got to make sure you got to take care of yourself, because you cannot pour tea from an empty teapot. And your job is to pour tea. Your job is to pour inspiration and good things on other people. So to bring your best version, and that's what you said, you bring the best version of yourself to work every day. So you take care of Sandra to be able to do that. Thank you. Great answers. You guys are amazing. Nayef, I'm going to throw another cool question your way. With the current high level of employee mobility, hybrid work, and the gig economy, and the premise that employees who experience high levels of well-being in the workplace are 3 times more likely to recommend their employers to others, what do leaders have to emphasize in their leadership practice to gain that level of stability in their teams? And that's just assuming that stability is an asset, which is a double whammy question here. Is stability a thing?
Thank you, Medrin. Yes, the answer is yes. Stability is a key, besides the self-care, as Sandra mentioned. So I personally, in my business, the small engineering firm, Akron Engineering, suffered because of the high turnover I had to go through during the first few years. We do all know about the challenges we have here in Fort McMurray. It's a remote area, and we have tough competitions with the industry wages. But yes, so the simple answer to the question is yes, stability is a big factor in having a more successful leadership. I believe that having engagement, true engagement, genuine engagement with your team members is a key to listen to their feedback and to empathize with what they say. Not just listen, also understand what they are saying and try to find ways to implement whatever you see is going to add to the value of the process is a key. You have to empower them. You have to give them opportunities to grow and to have much better development in their career.
Thank you very much. I think that's almost Mohamed said, when you invest in your people, you're investing in your company and you're investing in yourself. That's great. Great takeaway. Next question, Sandra. How can leaders build and maintain trust and psychological safety in a rapidly changing digital environment?
Thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, with digital transformation, and I think COVID has really expedited this, things are just faster. You know, the world is moving at a very fast pace, and businesses are having to respond equally very fast. And so as a leader, there is a degree of responsibility in ensuring that trust and support for your team. I think it was Forbes, pretty sure, according to Forbes, that 93% of businesses are either in the process or do have digital elements built into their business practices already. 93%. That's a pretty high number. And so as a leader, that poses a significant challenge. How do you support, build trust, empower your team through this ever-changing and fast-paced world? And for me, a few things come to mind. I think, one, we have to lead by example. You know, listening to Crystal, Mohamed, Nayef, and, you know, just having you share your perspectives on how you work with the team and support the team, that's a fabulous example for anybody within an organization to look to that and to aspire to want to be able to support the team in similar ways. So I would say leadership by example is certainly a key one. The other piece is taking failures as learning opportunities, because with speed comes an increase in errors, you know, put simply. And I think it was Nayef that spoke about that, is do we use the errors, the mistakes, as opportunities to learn and support the team so that we not only minimize the chances of that mistake repeating, but we learn from it and we come out better and stronger. The third and I suppose final advice or recommendation would be supporting with development. How can we provide professional development, whether it's within the organization or through third-party providers, to help teams be successful, take advantage of some of the digital innovations to keep up with some of the demands in today's workplace? So I'll leave it at that and see if others have anything to add.
Not me. So one thing just wanted to add is leaders, true leaders are expected to turn crises into opportunities. For example, when the COVID hit, people turned into virtual practice, and here we are without COVID so far, and we still have lots of virtual practice. So many people still working from home. So just to give an example of what Sandra was talking about.
Thank you. Any
One of the things that our company has went through is digital transformation, even from the field right up to what we're trying to do in our office to create more efficiency. I think I remember even when I was in a different position or, I say growing up into my position, it was thinking that, am I going to be replaced, or is this here to discipline me or to catch me doing something? And I think it's, trying to change the mindset, because I've been there, I've done it, right? Everybody's scared of succession and new technologies, and am I going to be replaced? And in some instances, that position or that task is replaced. However, this is where us as leaders and our team have to find different ways to show our employees and our people, right from the field leaders right up to different positions, that now their value is going to be added in a different way. Or, how can this position might no longer require this, but it's here to help you and it's a tool, right? I mean, it's hard. It's hard to always not think that technology is not going to replace certain things, because it is. It's the way the world's going. But again, it's helping change the mindset. And if we're not changing our mindset as leaders and help, not convince, but sell it basically to, where's your idea for new advancement in technology? Like, what do you recommend, right? I have no clue how to drive a combo truck or deliver fuel, and I rely, and my team relies on the expertise of the leadership in the field and the people that are doing it every day. I'm not going to sit there and tell them how to advance that task. We need their input, and how can we make this better? How can we make it safer? How can we give you better tools to do your job? So I think that's just what it boils down to. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Mohamed? Okay, it's a ditto. Thank you for that. Yeah, technology is accelerating so fast and changing the way that we relate to our workplaces and our roles. And sometimes it's awesome to find some mundane things being taken over by technology. But I am still waiting for technology to take over doing the laundry. Not going to get here. So, next question, over to Crystal and Mohamed. What is the role of empathy and compassion in people-centered leadership? And how can we effectively encourage it and develop it in our teams?
So this one's a hard one for me. I do speak from my heart, and I think one of the things that I found I struggle with the most is being able to lead and make tough decisions while still, people got families, people have personal things going on in their lives that we know about. But sometimes we have to make decisions as leaders that it hurts the heart, right? But again, I always say to myself, okay, this is not my company. I have to make a decision based on the organization. And I have to make a decision with my team, and that's where we kind of collaborate sometimes on challenges. But at the end of the day, it's trying to, I guess, put yourselves in other people's shoes first. Try to find out, where people are struggling or what the issues are before you just, this person's not working out or this idea is stupid, just really understand, I guess, people's different perspectives. One of the things too, it's like, if you made a mistake, you made a mistake. I read in a book one time, I don't read very often, but one of the common mistakes of a CEO is not being able to make a decision, right? Like, a wrong decision is sometimes better than no decision, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not perfect, and neither is my team. Sorry guys, you're not perfect. But with our job, we have to make tough decisions. And I think, just walk the talk, right? Like, being able to show, hey, I was wrong. I remember, I'll tell you a little quick story. I went to site a couple years ago. Safety manager's looking at me right now. And I went up there. It was Christmas time, and I wasn't on site, but I was on one of our clients' camps. And we were doing snow removal, and we're responsible for salting, sanding, taking care of the parking lots. And I did not have proper footwear on. Well, when I stepped out of the truck, my leg just started moving. The other one was still in the truck, and then the other one was going somewhere. So I fell down. I jumped up faster than I hit the ground. Like, nobody even knew I hit the ground. But then I'm like, okay, I just fell in the parking lot of a client. I do not have proper footwear on. And my supervisor that was there at the time that manages the site, he's like, what happened to you? I'm like, I just fell. And he's like, oh, right? And then immediately the two workers, when I told the workers that the employees there, I fell, they're like, we salted the ground, we did this, we did that. I'm like, no, this was my error. And we laughed, and thankfully I did not get hurt. But then the next thing, it's like, report it, right? Send it out, and send out the massive thing that an employee fell on site, blah, blah, blah. And then my leadership team was like texting me, was that you? And I'm like, it was me. So anyway, when I went to other sites, I literally use that as an example. I'm like, hey guys, guess what I did? I didn't follow the rules. I fell down. I could have got hurt. I jeopardized our contract. I jeopardized my safety. And I took responsibility. So being able to share those things, like I said, I did get proper work boots after, and I did get proper PPE, and they will never let me live this down. So, but again, showing vulnerability is a key to leaders because we are human beings and we're going to make mistakes, but I will respect the shit out of you if you come to me and say, hey, I don't know what to do, or I can't make this decision on my own and I need your help, or I need others' help, and maybe I'm not the right person to talk to, right? I also think it's important to realize, like, I've had different people that were reporting to me that I couldn't add value, but I knew other people on my leadership team could, and I immediately recognized that, and being able to recognize that I can't give them what they need to succeed in their job and redirect it their direct report, they're thriving and they're getting better help, and we're more collaborative, and we're able. So being able to recognize that sometimes just because you're the top on the chart doesn't mean you're going to be able to provide the skills that you need to be able to mentor and help your other leaders too, right? So.
Wow, thank you for that.
So, you covered everything. So no, serious question for everyone. Would you rather to be nice or be kind? Who wants to be nice? Raise your hand. Be kind? Everyone. Exactly. I think this is the key right here. People mix so much of you being nice and you being kind. Never be nice. Be kind. What be kind means, no, let's say with a be nice. Be nice means you treat people the way you want to be treated. That's a losing game right there. Be kind means you treat people the way they deserve to be treated. And you have the choice of showing kindness. And that's exactly like in the role of CEO sometimes. I remember the toughest day of my life was when I got the news I have to fire someone. It was the first time in my life I have to fire someone. He didn't sleep that day. On that morning, I read the thing 100 times, and I had to call someone in. It was hard. It was tough. But as you said, sometimes you have to make tough decisions. You have to make the right decisions. And you have to treat people sometimes the way they deserve to be treated. So as a leader, people look at you as a candle sometimes, as a light, as a fire. But never ever be a fire that you're going to burn yourself to warm someone who's not going to even appreciate the light, or you even burning yourself. Don't do it. Be kind. That's all, but be fair as well. Thank you.
I love that. Be kind. If you can be anything, be kind. It's really cool. Do you want to add to that, Sandra? Or Nayef? No, we're good. We're settling for. If you're going to be anything, be kind. Did you want to add to that? You're going to
just one thing. It's, again, too, it's like, I feel I've also learned that if you don't tell people there's a problem, how can they even have an opportunity to fix it, right? So it's like, it's, again, sometimes the truth is hard, but that's where if you communicate and talk about, everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses, I don't care who you are. Some people can overcome them faster. Sometimes it affects, you know, their main points of their job. Sometimes it doesn't matter if they really have that strength and they can work on it. But if you don't be true to them as well, you're not really doing them any justice either to be able to make a change or to be able to work on that. You know, sometimes I'm harder on myself, like you said, having to, you know, let somebody go. But then it's also like, you know, that person could thrive somewhere else or in a different environment. So it's not really for me to, I'm being selfish kind of if I really take on the point where it's like, oh, well, you know, what would this person do? Maybe they're going to do way better than they'll ever do with us, right? So it's hard still, it's still a hard decision, but it's not fair to them as well if they're not working out and we're not honest.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up, that sometimes telling people how they need to improve, what they need to do differently, is an act of service to them. It's an act of kindness. Patrick Lencioni says, he's one of my favorite leadership gurus, but it's like, feedback is an act of love. And giving people that feedback to help them to improve is a true act of love. So we have one more question, and then we're going to hand it over to our audience to ask you questions. So if you have good questions, write them down. Our last question goes to Nayef. How can organizations measure the impact of people-centered leadership on socioeconomic health of the community? What are the ethical considerations that leaders should prioritize to build the socioeconomic health in our communities?
Thank you, Marjorie. So there are two top priorities for any organization. One is client satisfaction, and second one is being profitable. And the easy way to reach to these two main targets for most of the organizations is to have a healthy work environment. And to have a healthy work environment, you have to be open, seek and receive and understand feedback from all your team members with empathy. Try to receive honest feedback and try to empower them and build on their feedback and make sure they are actually engaged. They are part of the process, not just a piece of an operation. So it's very, very important to get an engaged workforce, so by which you have a healthy work environment. I think you need to add something to this, Sandra.
This feels like revenge. Sure. The first thing that comes to mind, so I'll give a bit of context. I'm an economist by training, so I do gravitate towards data, towards social development and the advancement of societies. So in saying that, I love data. For an organization, there are opportunities to quantify and measure some of these indicators, because ultimately what doesn't get measured doesn't get valued or acted upon. So I love data, and for any organization looking to measure their progress, we have lots of institutions within the post-secondary sector, but also communities that have indicators to measure different aspects of individual progress, really. So I think of Bhutan as a country. They have an indicator for measuring happiness. They claim that they are the happiest country in the world. Now, as an economist, I find that fascinating, because ultimately, what is happiness? And the ability to be able to define that, quantify it, and then measure it, to confidently demonstrate progress in that space, I think it gives us a really good example to utilize. And so, Nayef, I have said something. Are you happy?
I am. I expected that. It's about community, and Keyano is a community college to be Polytechnique soon, hopefully. So to add to what Sandra mentioned, business owners and leaders are racing with the AI, artificial intelligence applications. I think leaders should also consider natural intelligence, which is the human resources, because they can be more innovative. AI cannot. They can come up with new ideas. They can have empathy. They have so many more advantages when it comes to comparison to AI.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, in an age of machine learning, let's not forget about human learning, right?
I'm just going to call out one of our board of directors over there that was just looking at his phone. So he said to me one time, because it just reminded me of what Sandra just said, you can't change what you don't measure, right, Danny? And I think that is important. And, you know, a lot of times where our company at the time and still are in the process, we don't have a lot of automation and data and things that we rely on almost just assuming, right? And so, you know, this year we were actually certified for a great place to work. And so that means our company people, we execute an external survey, and you have to meet 70% in order to be considered a great place to work. And, you know, prior years, we've done other surveys, and we didn't get as high. But what we did was we listened to what our employees wanted. And can we do it all? Absolutely not. But maybe we can make small changes that mean much more to them. Or maybe there's things we're doing that, like, we think they want this, but really they want this, right? It's easy for us to assume we're not in the field. We have different lifestyles, different things, different needs. Really hearing what the employees actually want is critical. And also really realizing sometimes that we are giving them what they want, but we haven't communicated it properly. And that's a key thing. It's like, you know, I think one of them was benefits. Well, what we do, we change the benefits. We heard they wanted different things, and we did. You know, we went out and listened to them and added different things, but then we found in the survey, we were still coming back with, well, we need better benefits. But what it was, we realized we probably just didn't communicate that they had better benefits, or maybe there was problems and we weren't really dealing with those specific things. So again, it's listening, having things to measure, being able to make changes, or maybe it's something small that they want and we can easily make those changes, right? Which, if, like you said, if they're happy, they want to work for us, they tell their friends, we get other workers, and it's just an overall trickling down effect, right?
Right throughout the community. Thank you very much for that. So, who would like to ask the first question? Mike, do you want the...
I don't think I need a microphone. So, the panel's all touched on it in several different forms. And it goes to communication, and what I'm going to say is probably considered politically incorrect in today's world. But it's vital and key to the leadership and how the leadership communicates to the employees. Society has now created a situation where it's dictating how we respond to different people, how they want to be identified. There's so many changes. There seems to be a lack of respect for the old ways, even though a lot of the old ways were wrong. There is still an appearance and a feeling that the new side wants it all their way, and you're not allowed to respect anything that used to be there. So how do we bridge that gap between the older workforce and the newer workforce, and bring that together in such a way that both sides understand each other?
Who you ask?
Huh? No, that's to the panel.
I would like to answer. Thank you. I will share something about this without getting into lots of details about this. I come from Lebanon. Back home, mental health is a taboo. Something, no one even if someone is suffering from mental health, they are scared to even tell their neighbors, our son is having so and so. Here in the West, me myself being a life coach, and that's why I'm speaking on this perspective. So I deal with that on a daily basis, with my sessions, with everything, so I can speak freely of this. I do believe, and I agree with you 100%, there's another extreme. Everything is mental health, or everything is, medication. He's sick, he's this, he's that. So I think what we have to do as leaders, find a middle ground. Like the same thing with us, like with our, and I'm very happy to see there's a diversity in the panel, right? So we can share our background as well. Like us, with our community, for example, right now, mental health is normal. And people actually are getting help, they seek the help, and they're not shy of it. But the same what we did in that way, we actually found a balance. We draw the line, the assessment, and it's not like, you take, again, I think Crystal did touch on this. You should, as a leader, as someone in charge, you should have a balance between emotions and your mind, right? If you want to go into anything in life with all emotions, you're going to fail. And that's why you think maybe the government is dictating. And you're right sometimes. But at the same time, too, you cannot go with everything with just right or wrong. You're not going to be fair. You're not going to be just. So I do believe in that perspective right there. And we do find it, you're right. And I do understand where you're coming from, especially you come from the restaurant business, for example, right? Finding stuff is impossible nowadays. It's hard. Even if you find stuff sometimes, especially with the young millennium, we call them, a young generation, for example, very sensitive, very fragile. You cannot even do the things that we were used to do back in the days, right? So how do you fix this? You're not going to change the world. But that's why I said we go back to the main point, the golden rule. Whoever you want to hire, see them, value them. If you believe in them, change them the way you think it fits. You like it? We hear you.
Personally, I think society has to get comfortable being uncomfortable. These are big questions and difficult questions, and they don't take a day or two to really come to a solution. We need time as people. We need to allow ourselves time to grapple with these big questions. And I say that to my daughter all the time. I say, when you make space for conversations, difficult conversations, you're better for it because you have the opportunity to learn, to get input. So that's the first comment is society needs to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Let's have these conversations. It doesn't mean that you're right or I'm right. Let's start with a conversation. And there's some, communities, traditions that say, it starts with 3 cups of tea. In some communities, it's 100 cups of tea. Let's have tea. Let's start with tea. And let's discuss and let's understand each other better. It's only through constructive dialogue that we will ever have a chance as a society to find answers to this. And if we're being honest, we don't have the answers yet. I think we're still in the phase of listening, collecting data, collecting information. And I think through the conversations we've had today as a panel, it comes back to that empathy, that dialogue with ourselves, with our teams, regardless of ethnic background, the different generations. Are we making space and time for dialogue? Not answers, just dialogue.
So maybe I want to just argue.
Now they allocate today, leadership is the kind of delegate to HR. At the end of the day, they're not making decisions. HR has to make it because it's too much legal. That's what the is. You cannot make the old days we used to make try to implement, or at least express to my managers at the restaurant, is don't identify them by he, her, that. Ask them their name, call them by their name. Can't go wrong if you identify them by name. So ask their name, talk to them with their name. It settles an awful lot, not all, but it settles an awful lot of the problems we associate today. But so many of us are dealing with different types of businesses where that's it. And Crystal, you said it, you've dealt with that. And I know your company, and I know that you struggle with that because you have a lot of old school, but now you're getting a whole wave of new school coming in.
So I have a father who had the same job for 45 years, and even though he's not old, he's old school and always have been. Very set in his ways, smart, can built every house I've ever lived in. But at the end of the day, he's so set in his ways that he was doing things sometimes where it wasn't safe, right? Or he didn't involve with technology of, advancement on how things have been done. And he always joked around and say, if you want a job, walk in there and tell them that you can do the job of those 3 people, fire them and put you in there. And I thought that way. I still sometimes think that way. Like, I think I can do a lot of things because I'm so passionate and so involved in things. But what you don't realize is that there is going to be the older generation that is very good at certain things, but there's also new generation that's really good at certain things. And sometimes as leaders, and again, I don't have all the answers, but sometimes our job is to help each other understand each other's perspectives. And because it doesn't matter if they think they're right or wrong, they think they're right. Like, if they're giving their opinion, they think they have a valid answer. And it might be valid, but it might not be. But how do you bridge the gap? I think that's our job as leaders, to try to find ways for them to understand each other a little bit better than what they do, or at least why we're doing it a certain way. At the end of the day, we can only do things as a company to make sure we have the right processes and procedures because it's based on data and safety and things like that. But there's still the human factor of, older Gerard thinks that Dwayne is useless because, he doesn't put in the work as much. Well, maybe the older guy overworks himself and is killing his body because he's trying to do things that 10 people should be doing. That was my father, right? He worked himself to death at his own demise, right? And now his body's paying for it at 67, but it doesn't make him better than the other workers. It's just trying to get people to understand why they think certain ways or how it's done. And I think that's our job as leaders, to try to bridge those gaps, because some people just are not good at communicating. No matter how many tools you give them, sometimes they don't want to talk to each other, but that's our job. And that's why we're leaders, is to try to help them understand. Gary, our supervisor here, he had a couple people not getting along, and he just told me he took them rock climbing. And took them to Mac Island, and he went rock climbing with them, and they kind of got to know each other and had, good communication and had to trust each other doing different things. And he said it worked. It changed how they interacted. And we got to be innovative and come up with new ideas on how to deal with people and change, because it's changing, whether we like it or not. And it's always going to be hard. We're dealing with people. It's always going to be hard. I didn't come up with that. He did.
So I would like just to add one more thing. I do believe in, without getting into details with a line of questioning, I think the problem is if you're a leader and you think that you're going to be accepting everything, here's where the problem. There's a difference between respect and accept. I do believe in any workplace, and I could be wrong, my job is to respect everybody. Do I have to accept them? Do I have to accept the ideas? It's up to me. So I'm speaking now, and when I bring religion to this. I'm a Muslim, right? We believe, for example, Muslims believe, and you're going to laugh about it, a man can marry up to 4 wives. So if you don't believe that, does that make you Islamophobe? No. Why do I have to feel offended? I think this is where we draw the line, is that we were raised differently, you were raised differently, we believe differently, you believe differently, but I respect you. And I see that on a daily basis with my community members, for example. They come, they have complaint. We have a complaint center, for example, right? Oh, he was racist. He was this. I'm like, wait, bring it down. Why did you call him racist? Because he disagreed with you? Now just because someone doesn't agree with you, make him racist? No. Why we're so sensitive? Why you're so insecure about it? No, that's your belief and that's his belief. You and I, if we sit on a table, Mark, we're going to have 1,000 things to disagree on. But does that make you any less than me, or does that make me less than you? No. I respect you, respect me. That's all. That's where I think we draw the line. The old school and the new school, I guess.
Yeah, they're very different perspectives there, and the diversity in general gives us challenges there. Yes, there's a question.
It's not a question, just a comment. It's like I want to advocate for older people because I feel we're stereotyping older people as not having an open mind in things and being set in their ways. And as an older person, I'm very open-minded and I'm very woke, so just don't assume that older people are.
And you're my friend, right?
Thank you.
No, that's so true, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Gary's hand was up first.
I have a question around the leaders. So obviously you've been leading people for a number of years. Knowing what you know now today, is there any do-over decisions that you would do differently knowing what you know today?
Who's answering for you?
Well, I can start. For me, it would be no, because ultimately those experiences shape who we are today, good or bad. So it's learning from them and, growing from those experiences. So for me, it would be no. And that's not a cop-out answer. I've thought about it lots, trust me, but ultimately, I'm better for them, for all the decisions that I've made, good or bad.
My answer is yes, I would make some different decisions with the knowledge that I've learned over the year. I've been in the engineering practice for almost 40 years now. Things evolve. Some decisions might be related to technologies, a change of work environment, change of the composition of the team. But if you ask me, do I regret any of the decisions that I made? I would say no, I don't regret any decision I made. Doesn't make me made the right decisions, as Crystal said before. We are all humans, we make mistakes, but I'm a big believer of continuous improvement. We need to take care of ourselves as leaders, learn, go for training, and try to improve our leadership skills.
Thank you very much, Nayef. Crystal?
Just a quick comment. Not necessarily thinking, I just wish I was a bit more open-minded myself. Like, in my previous roles, I couldn't, when leaders made decisions, I was like, I can't believe that leader made that decision. Like, how cruel. Like, almost like it was a personal decision, or, when there's changes within a company, it was just like, oh, well, why are they making those changes? Not really understanding that people have to make hard decisions. I think that was the biggest thing I learned. I'm like, wow, now I know why I didn't really fit in somewhere. Doesn't matter how hard you work, if the dynamic is not right. It doesn't matter, if you're negative and you're, changing. You could be the hardest worker, but if you're not contributing, or being negative and not really accepting the growth or the evolution of how business evolves, you're really holding back yourself and the organization. So I just kind of wish I was just a bit more observant to realize that people have to make decisions, and I wasn't in that role, and I think it's something I definitely learned very hard, very fast, that I have to be uncomfortable sometimes and make hard decisions, and now I get why other people kind of were that way as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
The one thing I regret the most is definitely me taking engineering. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. And the reason I did it is to make my dad happy. So, yeah.
What's wrong with engineering?
Well, I would, no, there's a reason, right? Lebanon or Lebanese, Middle East in general, actually, and Nayef can comment on this. If you're not a doctor or a lawyer or engineer, it's like a shameful thing for your family, right? So my dad always wanted all of us, there's 12 of us in the family, right? Either a doctor or engineer or lawyer, it has to be, right? My love was always for socialism and psychology, right? But it was psychologist. Are you crazy? That's how you used to. It is, right? So now, and you know what? My dad passed away last year, and me and him we spent a couple years very close when he was sick, and he did tell me something. He said, "You know what, son? I'm proud of you." Now, for my engineering degree, he didn't even see it. I don't even have it. You know, I have it in one of the closets. I didn't even look at it. I'm sorry, Nayef. But he did say, "You know what? You made a difference." And he did tell me one thing, and I gave him an oath. He said, "Don't even run for a politic office ever." And he's like, "Give me an oath that you will never do it because you will ruin everything you did." You know, I gave him that oath, and I will never regret the oath. I tell you that. You know, but the one thing I do regret definitely is not following my love for that knowledge, the psychology, and being in that field because I do love it. I enjoy it. But I'm still young. I might do it. You never know. So the point I'm trying to make is do what you love to do.
Thank you very much for that, and we look forward to your next degree, I think. The gentleman over.
So just a quick comment. It's not, to add to Gary's question, it's not only being cautious when making decisions. It's as a leader, we need to be cautious about our behavior, our words. Like it did happen to be a few times that one of my team members is doing something and I'll ask him or her, "Why are you doing it?" They would say, "Because you said so one day." So as leaders, we should be very diligent in what we say and what we do during our leadership journey.
That's true. We all walk around with megaphones. We have no idea how big those words are.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this topic of leadership, I really love it. And I will say that one of the key things about leadership that I have always admired is how big leaders create the sense of ownership in employees. So that's something that I admire a lot because you can see that from whatever level in the organization, if you as an employee identify as one owner of the organization, even though you are not a shareholder, for example, okay, it creates a sense of shared responsibility. So I would love to learn from a panel, based on your experience with different organizations, let's say, how do you, let's say, motivate people to create that sense of ownership?
I could personally talk about that for 48 hours non-stop, but I'm going to hand it over to the panel.
I will answer. Let me take it. Let me take it once, for God's sake. So, with Prestige Jewelers, we were founded in 1999. We, since 25 years now, 6 of our employees opened their own stores, right? And we guided them from day one, and we pretty much trained them, and we believed in them, and they went on their own, but they have to sign an agreement they cannot open a Fort McMurray. No, but to answer your question, I do believe the person that is taking role in your company, he is actually the one who's making your company, not you. Because he's the one who's interacting the most with the staff or the companies or the partners or the industry or right? So pretty much he is a reflection of who you are. If he's good, that means that you're good. And if he's terrible, that doesn't make him terrible or her. It makes you terrible. So the sense of ownership within the company itself is actually the sense of yourself within themselves. That's how we look at it. So you got to give them that space we spoke about in the beginning. Give them the space of making decisions. And even if they made a wrong decision, don't come on them like a hammer. No. Tell them you did amazing, but let's try this next time. So that give them a little bit of trust, give them the encouragement to do even better things, right? And you never know. Maybe you will have the next partner sitting next to you in the company, or the next CEO, or even the one who's going to teach you how to take your business to the other side. I'll give you another real story. For example, Prestige Jewelers. In 2000, after the fire, we had a huge drop, and our business is based on local 100%. And that's why I use our business as a metric if the economy is going up or it's going down, right? 2016, we had the fire. We almost shut down. We almost did, right? And that's where I was in Fort Chip. Sammy called me and said, come down, we need help. So we came down collectively like a team. We said, okay, what do we have to do? And that's exactly what we did, the digital transformation, right? The old ways are gone. The boomtown idea, and unfortunately that's a mentality with lots of business owners still till today. We're waiting for the boom. We're waiting for the boom. It's gone. That mentality is gone. So we came up with ideas. We focused on custom. We focused on social media, on marketing, now on AI, for example. And that basically, if it wasn't for them, and by the way, I'm not the only owner at Prestige Jewelers, right? There's like 4 of us in the company. And actually, I have the lowest shares of the company, right? But they put that sense of ownership in me. They put that sense of trust in me. And look where we are right now. And we're actually, in Fort McMurray, 70,000 people. We are #1 jewelry store in North America, believe it or not. In Fort McMurray, we sell the most engagement rings than any other city based on the population. And again, it goes back to the team. It goes back to who's behind the scene and what kind of trust and ownership they're putting in the people. And for myself, I'm saying it humbly. I'm not just saying it. If it wasn't for the people behind the scenes at Prestige Jewelers, I wouldn't even be existent. After God, for sure.
Can I just comment on that, or do you want? Yeah. No, I'm actually going to give you a pat on the back because I didn't even really know Prestige Jewelry existed until you got involved, because you are so out there with the community, doing the extra things, coming to the table when people need help. Again, like you've led it to a way that you're making yourself visible, but also recognizing that, our community struggles, and we've had a lot of stuff happen in Fort McMurray. But I also, it goes back to, it does matter who's at the table for leadership, and who is doing, we're a 15-year-old company. We have tripled in size in the last 3 to 4 years, and it's not me, but it does come back to the values of me as a leader and my team. I'm highly driven on relationships for success, because I think that's where you're able to have good conversations, bad conversations, you're able to work things out. That comes from a client, stakeholders, employees. It's not that I reinvented the wheel or my team reinvented the wheel on business. It's just, it's very value driven of honesty, transparency, hard discussions, respect, humility. We didn't get here on our own. We rely on our clients to help us get there. Growth, we rely on people around us, not just one person, making changes and doing all the work. I would love to take credit. See, people say all the time, Crystal, how did you make these changes? Or the board will even say to me, oh, good job, Crystal. Hey, this is not Crystal. I'd love to be able to take credit, but it's not Crystal. Crystal is not McKay Métis Group. And we got here as a team. And I'm talking, when I say team, I mean from the Combro operator to our safety manager, to our HR, to our snow removal crew. Like, we are all contributing to success, and recognizing that we need everybody to get there is really important, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that make the money, not me. And I think showing that true value as a leader, but recognizing that how I conduct my life and how I lead and how my team leads, and being able to not be scared to say, what they feel or what they're doing, and be transparent and honest, really goes way further than being scared, to be able to contribute to the change or evolve or come up with ideas, right? I don't care who comes up with the idea, I just want good ideas, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So, yeah. But yeah, you gotta commend yourself, because I honestly like what you guys do for the community, and that does speak for itself, right? So.
When it comes to leadership, I just want to commend you on the diversity of views, because leadership is not one size fits all. And you can have various factors: the organization, the people, the level of education, the spread, the situation that you're in could affect the type of leadership. So depending on which organization you are in, you could take a little bit of command and control, a little bit of servant leadership, but I appreciate that diversity in thought. But one thing that I wanted to comment on is regarding the oftentimes compassionate or servant leadership is seen as a weakness, and there's a little bit of a stigma to it, and it's often seen as if you're too nice, you're seen as weak. But I would beg to differ, because especially when you factor in the fact that you're dealing with people, and especially post-pandemic, there's been a mental health, as was mentioned, is a huge issue. And we have to be, to recognize that fact. The fact that people may appear happy or put on a face when they're at work, or they will do the work that you assign to them, but deep down folks are going through a lot, right? So compassionate leadership. One thing though that I would like to maybe adjust a little bit what you said regarding don't be nice, but be kind, is why be kind when you can also be nice as well? And not just that, but also be firm and be clear on top of that. Because oftentimes when you're nice, people can take that as a weakness, but be nice, be kind, but also be firm and be clear. That's all I wanted to say.
Can I quickly comment? So being a woman in the heart of the oil sands CEO, I always thought in the beginning, like, oh my God, and I mean, I think I look a little bit younger than a normal CEO in the heart of the oil sands. However, there comes a stigmatism with that as well, right? Like, I learned the real hard way because I was trying to be a bit more firm, a bit different in the beginning, trying to like keep up with the stigmatisms of what I had to be. And I realized real quick that I'm going to be crystal young and I'm going to be genuine and I'm going to be honest and be caring. And sometimes that might look weak, but I'm okay with it because I'm a human being. And I know that I'm being true to myself as a leader, and I know that people respect that way more than trying to be something I'm not. And I think it's being genuine, right? And I think I can't express that enough, because sometimes people find it really hard to say what they want to say. And not everybody, I feel like I'm a pretty confident person. I've been outspoken my whole life. But not everybody has that confidence, and not everybody has the ability to want to be able to speak up, or they can't speak up. And I don't know, I was just trying to do so many things to please other people. And at the end of the day, and I'm like, man, I'm here for a reason. People believed in me. People believed in my team. My team believed in me. You know, my board believed in me. The nation believed in me. Why am I trying to conform to something else? And it really wasn't, like I said, until I start asking myself, like, who am I trying to please here? If I'm doing a good job and things are getting done, and I should be able to do it my way and be genuine and just be as honest as I would be I'm pretty passionate about my job. But at the end of the day, like, I live and breathe work. Not everybody lives and breathes work. I'm outspoken, I'm relationship driven, and the real thing is that people respect is that I'm gonna probably tell you how I feel, whether you like it or not, in a respectful way. And I think there's people that appreciate that, and there's people that don't. But again, you won't have to guess how I'm feeling. If I have to deal with something, I do. And I think that's where leadership comes in, to the fact that just be genuine, be yourself. At the end of the day, you gotta be you if you want to be a leader. You can't lead people and expect them to be somebody different if you're not being yourself as well. So, yeah.
I never get your name, brother. Benjamin. Thank you for that question. I only have 1 minute. Just one? I need less than 1 minute. Before, I used to, you just got me to lose it. Anyway, so the problem, like us being nice sometimes, is that you're trying to please everybody, right? And I do remember 7 years ago, I met with one of my mentors. And I did tell him how I always felt betrayed, or you felt that you're being down, you're being too nice to someone and they took advantage of it. And he just looked at me, and he's a big, tough guy, you know. I'm like a toothpick in front of him. Big. Who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for them, or are you doing it for God? Right? And then he said, Mo, it's all about your intentions. It's all about your intentions. If you're doing the good to receive the good, you're not being genuine. Do the good for the sake of God, and it will come back to you. I know it's called karma in English, right? So what I'm trying to say here, and I said, okay, how can I avoid that? Do I have 20 seconds more? And he said, when you leave the house, and this is actually one of the toughest things for a leader. Again, I don't like to be the leader, but to be on the spotlight, is because people think that you're genuine. Right? It's hard. People will always wait for you to fall. People will, unfortunately, not everyone, for sure. So he said, Mo, put a shield. And that's so powerful. It helped me out to make it where I am right now. He said, Mo, put a shield of everything negative that might happen to you before you leave your house. Strong shield. So if it comes, it goes back to the person who did it. Because you know who you are at the end of the day. So what's the point? So that's why I said, be kind, don't be nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra, do you want to respond to that?
No, that's okay. Valuable insights. I was just going to touch on what Crystal said. Absolutely. When you look at the work environment, men are still the majority when it comes to senior leadership roles. But as females, I think it's a difficult space to walk into sometimes. But that authentic leadership is so important. If people know what to expect when they interact with you, work with you, connect with you, at the very least, they can respect that. So, as leaders, we do have these conversations sometimes too at the college, is, who are we as leaders? What's your leadership style? And are you authentic with that? It's not easy, but.
Thank you very much. Authenticity is so important. When somebody is inauthentic, we always feel that there's a static. It's sort of the radio station is not completely dialed in. And it's just really so much easier to trust and relate when that radio station is dialed in. Eric, do we have another question? No? That's it. Any final thoughts from the panelists? Oh, there's one. Thank you.
They always say I'm very loud at work. I got stuck on one thing when you said about your 10-year-old daughter, about Generation Alpha. So it frightens me every day. Because as a leader, and every leader in this room, I'm not quite sure that the skills that we utilize today are going to work. So personally, I have a stepson that stays in his room all day long on his PlayStation. He comes out, grabs his food that we cook for him, takes back to the bedroom. He do not spend time with us. He don't do anything. The social skills, like, I'm so afraid. So I guess I want to say to the group, do you have a plan? If you do, tell me.
Oh, dear. I'm going to start on this side this time.
That's a great question, and one that I would say, falls within that space of we don't have all of the answers yet, because a lot of the impacts, whether it's within organizations, communities, that some of these shifts will cause, we still don't know. It's going to be generations before we truly realize the full extent of how organizations will need to change. But I'm grateful for the team that I have that constantly challenge us and our processes, from hiring practices to our interview processes to onboarding. We have these conversations. And the question remains, how can we adapt on time as each new generation comes into the workplace? We've talked about technology, AI, and the use of that. That's something that we're experimenting with, certainly. We don't have the answers. I certainly don't have the answer for you. But when I look at my daughter and I look at her experience, sort of personalizing it, I try to have discussions with her at her age, at her level, to understand the motivations for that behavior. Why do you spend X amount of time communicating with your friends through a mobile device, for example, when you can walk across the street and say hello? And the answers will blow your mind. And sometimes then you take it the next step, at least for me, and I say, well, imagine you were to find a job. How do you think that would work? And same thing, the answers, blows my mind. But I think it provides an opportunity for us to learn and pick. Ultimately, it's not going to be a copy and paste, but pick aspects of it that fit into the workplace. Some of our deans are here, and one thing that we talk a lot about is work placements. Work placements for students as they come into post-secondary, to say, you do need to get out into the real world. So we're going to put you in a workplace. Maybe we won't start 6 months, maybe we'll start a week. Try it out for a week, and then we'll reassess, extend another week, and so on. So there's a bit of trial and error, I find, going on right now. But like I always say, that's okay, because it's through those trial and errors that we'll be able to find a happy medium.
You're good.
I have a follow-up, if I could, because she touched on a very key point. So what Sandra said is we don't know. So the question is, as a society, are we moving too quickly for this change? And we as leaders, do we not have a responsibility as our parents and their grandparents to hold back those reins so we're ready for each next step?
Do we have the benefit of that with the digital age? Sorry. The question is, do we have the benefit or an opportunity to slow down with the digital age? I would say no. The Gen Alphas they're gone. They're out the gates and they're moving fast, right? Good luck trying to get them to slow down, right? But I think with each generation, though, they bring with them ideas and solutions. And so how do we provide the space to hear from those perspectives that may differ from, our generation or the generation before us? I believe there's hope. There is hope because these kids that are coming up are going to be super efficient because they will master the art of technology and how to use it to be more productive. I have a brother who picks and chooses how many hours a day he wants to work. And he challenges me, why? Why do you, the generation, feel the need to wake up every day and go to work? Now, from a historical standpoint, there's benefit to society and all that. It doesn't make that perspective any less. It's just a different perspective. Oh, I'm adding myself in there, trust me. Oh. Absolutely. Yeah. No, but it's a valid point though, right? And I respect the opinion that you've offered, but we're talking from a majority standpoint, and I'm actually adding myself.
That is the problem. When we talk about majority, I always forget about those that are marginalized and left on the fringes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Change our language and be more conscious of what we say.
Absolutely. And so speaking from myself, right, if I'm in a workplace where there's lots of changes, right, and we have, I talk of the Gen Alphas, for example, who we know in a few years are coming into the workplace. Are there things that we can have in place? Are there processes that we can incorporate? Can we learn from them and build up our systems so that they're better, stronger than what we inherited? Right?
Thank you very much for that perspective. There's a question on the floor there.
I don't know if it's a question as much as it's a comment. I think as leaders, we need to be respectful of our own time and make the request, the ask of people that are coming to us for advice or mentorship that the timing has to be convenient for both parties. When I moved here 17 years ago, we're in the insurance business, and we used to have a lineup every morning at the office. It was really hard on the staff to be able to demand on our people's time when people would just show up on when they wanted to do something. So we just simple, make an appointment, block a reasonable amount of time. I think as leaders, we have to do that with the people that we work with as well. One of the concepts that I gleaned from a book I read last year was there's a difference between having a discussion with a team member and having a coaching moment with a team member. They're very different from a mindset, focus, and what your discussion points are going to be. So it's just about respecting our own time, because we can all spend the rest of our lives with a lineup outside our door and never get done what we need to get done. And I think that's a fundamental failure. That's I call it the grand trap of servant leadership. Is that we're all pretty good people inherently. I think so. At least I believe that. So if we let people take all our time, then we end up, sending emails at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I do that. Because I wake up and I remember that I've got to do something yesterday. So if we don't manage our time, we don't want time for ourselves. Sandra's point about her brother saying, I only want to work 3 hours today. That's things that we need to do as leaders to make sure that we take care of ourselves too.
Thanks, Bryce. I got one quick comment. That was you, right? Yep. I just think that it's important. We always joke and say, what is the purpose of why we're meeting? Like, if we're having a meeting, is it actually adding value? Or are we having the same meeting over and over and over again and really there's no purpose? Like, we all are busy and we all have different jobs, responsibilities, and accountability. And sometimes we meet and we realize we keep meeting and we're not really accomplishing anything. And then I have this one person who always says to me, I feel like you could have told me that in an email, right? And it's so funny because it's like what I think is important and what somebody else values as important is definitely sometimes not aligned. And it probably could have been sent in an email. So I do agree that, it's what is the purpose of what we're trying to achieve and trying to get better at identifying those opportunities, because the last thing we want to do is take up everybody's time and they're overworked or, or underutilized, right? And there's a reason that we have a leadership team and ideas and being able to get together, so it kind of goes both ways.
Thank you very much. One last comment here from Nayef, and then I'm going to ask the panel to close with a final thought for our audience, and then please feel free to continue asking questions, but in the interest of time, we want to start wrapping up.
So I'll start. This is my final comment, anyway, to start. So, no, final. So thank you, Bryce, for that point. Actually, I'm having a hard time with people lined up at the door of my desk most of the time, so I cannot do my job sometimes. So I have a slogan, I have a sign put on my desk that says, don't come to me with a problem, come with a solution. And that adds to the ownership. I give them ownership. So if you have any situation, you have to come with a suggestion on how to resolve the situation, and then we can talk about it before implementing. So that's how I add ownership to my team members.
Well said. For me, I think it's just a reminder that leadership is not monolithic. It depends on the organization, it depends on the context. So it's adapting, learning, adapting to fit the organization, the context, the time, the situation, and just continue to learn and grow, recognizing that leadership is not easy. It's a labor of love, I always say. So thank you for being amazing leaders, all of you, in your own way, here in the community.
Thank you very much. Final comments from this side here. You going to fight over the mic?
No. Now we're fighting. Again, be genuine, be humble, no matter how long, how much you've been in a position. It's important to recognize everyone that helped you either advance and grow and who are still helping you grow. We're always growing, we're always learning, and just like I said, be confident and encourage and empower. And with that, I can't expect my team to make decisions, but then not hold them accountable as well, right? And I think we're trying to, ensure that it's a safe space to be able to make decisions and we can work things out together. But again, be able to inclusion and have those discussions and hard conversations. It all boils down to relationships between your team and getting to know them. Their personalities are different. We're all different. We got different backgrounds, different things going on in our lives, and always be respectful and be mindful that different people are going through different things, and just always have that open communication as much as you can, because sometimes our lives get busy and sometimes I forget, and just providing that encouragement to the team.
On top of what she just said, really be humble and be genuine. And we usually say in Arabic, but English try to translate it, never outshine your master. It doesn't matter how great you think you are. It doesn't matter where you made it. God is much greater. So never outshine your master. Be humble. Don't ever let arrogance get into you in any way or form. and always be the change that you want to see. Be the change you want to see. Don't compromise for sure your values or your religion or your belief, but be the change you want to see. Thank you.
And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you very much to our awesome panelists. I have a small token of appreciation here for you, but I'll get up and grab it for you in a minute. And thank you for our audience here and participants. You've been very lively, lots of great insights and comments and questions as well. So thank you very much.